What would you do if someone you didn't even want in your life tore it all apart? And years later, they came crawling back, not with apologies, but with desperation. My name is Rachel, and this is the story of how one decision to show kindness ruined everything I built until the universe flipped the script. I remember the morning like it was scorched into my soul. The air was heavy that day, not with weather, but with something invisible. Like fate had paused for a moment to take a deep breath before exhaling chaos into my life. I was standing in the kitchen of my small but cozy two-bedroom house in South Carolina. Coffee brewing. My to-do list already scribbled on a sticky note. I was 29. Independent. Just got promoted at the nonprofit I'd been working at for 4 years. Nothing grand, but it was mine. My peace. My sanctuary. And then the phone rang. I still hear that ringtone sometimes in my sleep. It was my Aunt Marlene, voice trembling. Something about my cousin's daughter, Zoe. That she had no place to go. That CPS was involved. That the system was going to take her unless someone in the family stepped in.
Zoe.
The name alone brought a flicker of anxiety to my gut. She was always difficult. The kind of child who never looked you in the eye, who always seemed to be calculating something behind her silence. I'd only seen her a handful of times growing up, once at a family barbecue when she'd lied about my sister stealing her phone. Another time at a funeral where she refused to speak to anyone and took money from the condolence cards. But she was family. And blood is supposed to mean something, right? So I did what no one else volunteered to do. I let her into my home. She arrived on a Tuesday, with one duffel bag, no apology, and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. I told myself she was just broken. Not bad. Just hurt. She was 17. I made up the guest room, bought extra groceries, even left a little post-it on her mirror that said, "You are safe here." I thought kindness could fix things. I thought love, patience, and rules would build a bridge. I was so painfully wrong. At first, things were manageable. She kept to herself, barely spoke, came home late,
Didn't eat with me.
but there weren't any big issues. Until little things started disappearing. A bracelet I loved from my mom. My favorite perfume. A bottle of wine. I wanted to believe I was just being forgetful. But deep down, I knew. Then came the lies. She told people at school that I locked her in the house. That I screamed at her. That I hit her. I found out from a coworker whose daughter went to the same school. I confronted Zoe. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "No one believes you anyway. You're just a bitter woman who couldn't have her own kids." I didn't have words. It felt like she knew exactly where to strike. And maybe she did. You see, what no one knew, not my coworkers, not even most of my family, was that I'd been through 3 failed IVF rounds. I had spent over $30,000 trying to become a mother. And I failed. Zoe somehow knew. And she used it. It wasn't just the things she took from my house. She took pieces of me. She shattered the peace I had worked so hard to create in my life. She made my sanctuary feel like a battlefield. And the worst part? No one believed me. Everyone saw her as the poor orphan girl. The tragic teen. "She's just traumatized, Rachel. You're being too strict. Try to understand what she's been through." But no one saw what she was doing behind closed doors. She stole passwords. She accessed my bank accounts. She used my name to open credit cards and max them out. She deleted important work files from my laptop. And when I finally had enough, when I tried to get legal help, they said because she was a minor in my care, I was responsible. I couldn't even evict her. I was trapped in my own home.
The girl I didn't want.
The girl I tried to save.
She ruined me.
She left 2 days after her 18th birthday. Just walked out. Took my backup laptop, some jewelry, and the last of my emergency cash. No note. No goodbye. Just silence. I thought that was the end. And in many ways it was. The end of my faith in people. The end of my financial stability. The end of believing that being the good person always pays off. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. Because exactly 5 years later, Zoe came back. Not with rage. Not with revenge. But with begging. And I was about to find out that karma doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes, it knocks softly, wrapped in a whisper of apology and a storm of consequences. I wasn't always the woman who second-guessed her kindness. There was a time I believed in people. I believed in second chances, in silver linings, in the power of love to heal whatever was broken. I believed that if you gave someone enough light, they'd eventually stop hiding in the dark. That was before Zoe.
But before that, there was me.
Just Rachel, the youngest of 3 sisters, raised in a small town where everyone knew your name and your business. My parents were decent, hardworking people. My dad was a high school teacher. My mom ran a small antique shop on Main Street. We weren't rich, but we had enough. Enough food. Enough laughter. Enough memories tucked between the cracks of hard years.
I was always the soft one.
Sensitive. Quiet. The one who cried during commercials and adopted stray cats off the sidewalk. While my sisters grew into loud, opinionated versions of my mother, I inherited her eyes and my father's soul, calm, reflective, always trying to fix what others gave up on. I went to college on a partial scholarship, studied social work. Everyone joked it was the perfect fit for someone like me, someone who saw people as puzzles with missing pieces they wanted to help find. I moved to Charleston right after graduation and began working with a local nonprofit that supported homeless teens and women escaping domestic violence. The work was brutal. The stories were heavier than bricks. But somehow, it gave me purpose. I was 24 when I started trying to get pregnant. I wasn't married, not even in a relationship. But something in me ached to become a mother. I wanted someone to belong to me, someone to pour all my love into. So, I started the process, doctor visits, hormone injections, saving every spare dollar. I told myself if it was meant to be, it would happen. It didn't. 3 rounds of IVF. 3 crushing failures. Each one felt like a funeral for a dream. I remember sitting on my bathroom floor after the 3rd time, holding the single pink line on the test like it was a sentence, like it was telling me I'd never have a family, never hear a little voice call me mom. I cried for 2 days. And then, I moved on. Or at least I told myself I did. By the time I was 29, I had made peace with the idea that I wouldn't be a mother. I threw myself into work, took on extra shifts, decorated my house with plants and candles and little things that made the silence feel softer. That was when the call came. My Aunt Marlene was never really close to us. She was my dad's younger sister, always a little erratic, always chasing some new man, some new high. We hadn't spoken in over a year when she called me that day about Zoe. "Rachel, I don't know what to do," she said, voice thick with guilt and desperation. "They're going to take her if someone doesn't step up. Please, you're the only one who's stable." I didn't say yes right away. I sat with it for 2 days. I remembered Zoe at age 12, wild-eyed, defiant, always angry. I remembered how she stole $40 from my purse at a family reunion and never said sorry. I remembered how she kicked the dog at Grandma's house and lied about it. But I also remembered being 12.
Scared. Confused.
Wanting love but not knowing how to ask for it. I told myself she just needed safety. That maybe I had been chosen to give her that.
So I called back.
And I said yes. She arrived like a storm you could see forming miles away. Quiet. Slow-moving. But you could feel the pressure drop the moment she entered the room. She was taller than I remembered. Pretty in that sharp way, like glass. Cold, shiny, and able to cut. She barely spoke when I picked her up from the county office. Just stared out the window while the social worker handed me the paperwork. "She's been through a lot," the woman said, her tone clipped, tired. "Try to be patient." That first night, she didn't eat dinner with me. She said nothing. Just took her duffel bag and locked herself in the guest room. I gave her space. I thought it was what she needed. Trauma doesn't unfold neatly, and I knew that. But days passed, and she remained a stranger in my home. There were no smiles. No questions. Just silence, broken by the occasional sound of drawers being opened or her footsteps late at night. I found myself tiptoeing around my own house. I left notes on the fridge. Stocked up on snacks I saw in her room. Gave her a prepaid phone and some basic clothes. She never said thank you. I thought maybe she didn't know how. After a few weeks, she began to shift. She started talking back. Started challenging my rules, curfews, school attendance, basic respect. And when I pushed back, even gently, she'd stare at me with this eerie calmness, like she was studying me. "You're not my mother," she once said. "I know," I replied. "But I'm the one who showed up." Her laugh that day still haunts me. It wasn't joy. It was mockery. That's when the sabotage began. Subtle things. Accusing me of taking her things. Telling school staff I was verbally abusive. Manipulating my internet passwords. Stealing my debit card and claiming it was just a test. I tried to document everything. I kept a journal. Took photos. Recorded voice memos when things escalated. But none of it mattered. When I tried to report her, I was told she was a minor in my care and I had no grounds unless there was immediate physical danger. And Zoe, she was clever. She knew how far to go without crossing legal lines. She made sure I was always just short of having proof. There were days I stared at her and didn't see a teenager. I saw a mask. A cold, calculated void wrapped in skin and teenage angst. But even through all of it, some part of me hoped. Hoped that maybe she would come around. That some small gesture would pierce whatever pain made her so vicious. But it never came. On her 18th birthday, she left. Took half my savings, some electronics, and my grandmother's necklace I'd been saving for my future daughter, if I ever had one. And that was it. No note. No apology. Not even a slammed door. Just silence. Everyone told me to move on. My sisters said I should have known better. My coworkers said I did more than anyone else would have. But no one knew what it cost me. Not just the money. Not just the sleepless nights. Not just the therapy. It cost me my belief in goodness. It cost me the part of myself that trusted. I buried the memory of her deep inside a locked mental drawer, labeled, "Never again." And for 5 years it stayed there. Until one day it didn't. It was a Thursday afternoon when I saw her again. 5 years had passed since she vanished. I was coming out of the grocery store, holding a paper bag filled with almond milk, bananas, and pasta sauce, when I saw a figure sitting on the curb near the parking lot, knees drawn to her chest, hoodie pulled over her face. There was something oddly familiar about her. I kept walking, but a voice, raspy, unsure, called out, "Rachel." I froze. No, it couldn't be. I turned, slowly, heart pounding in my throat. She pulled back her hood. And there she was.
Zoe.
Older, thinner, but still carrying that same coldness in her eyes. Except this time, it was cracked with desperation. My mouth went dry. I hadn't said or heard her name in years. I thought I buried it with the pain she left behind. I didn't speak. I couldn't. She stood up slowly, her arms trembling, as if even standing cost her energy. Her skin was pale, her lips dry, and there were purple bruises beneath her eyes. I didn't know where else to go, she said quietly. My instinct? Walk away. My brain screamed, no. Not again. Don't let her in. But my feet didn't move. I stared at her, this girl who once hollowed out my life, and I saw something unfamiliar. She wasn't defiant. She wasn't arrogant. She was empty. What do you want, Zoe? I asked, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. She looked down at her shoes. I just need a place to sleep. Just for one night. Please. I swear I won't touch anything. I haven't eaten in 2 days. I didn't respond. My heart was a war zone. One side dragging up the memories of her betrayal, the other side whispering, what if she's changed? She must have seen the hesitation in my eyes because she added, I messed up, Rachel. I know I did. But I'm not the same anymore. I just need a chance to prove it. That word, chance, hit me like a slap. She'd had her chance. She shredded it. But something inside me, the part of me that never really died, said yes. I told myself it would be one night. One meal. No strings. She sat quietly in the passenger seat as I drove home. No music.
No small talk.
Just heavy silence. When we arrived, she hesitated at the door like it was sacred ground. I let her in. She looked around slowly, taking in the familiarity. "You still have the sunflower curtains," she murmured. I didn't respond. I led her to the guest room. Same bed. Same lamp. The last place she slept before she stole everything. "I'll leave clean towels outside the door. Don't touch anything. And don't think for 1 second that I trust you." She nodded. No sass. No eye roll. Just quiet compliance. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake, heart racing at every creak of the floor, every distant sound from the hallway. My past was breathing under my roof again, and it terrified me. By morning, she was still there. Still quiet. Still respectful. She made coffee. Cleaned the guest bathroom. Didn't ask for anything. I didn't know what to do with that. The days turned into a week. She never asked to stay longer. She just didn't leave. She helped with dishes. Did the laundry without being asked. Applied for jobs using my laptop, but always with my permission this time. One night over dinner, she spoke. "Do you ever think some people are just born wrong?" she asked, not looking up. I paused. "What do you mean?" She twirled her fork slowly. Like, no matter what people do for them, they just find a way to destroy it. Like they can't help it. I studied her. She wasn't being dramatic. She wasn't fishing for sympathy. She was being honest. "Do you think that's you?" I asked. She shrugged. "I used to. But now, I'm just tired. Tired of fighting things I don't understand." Her eyes watered just a little. That night, I went to bed wondering if redemption was really possible. But I didn't know the storm was just beginning. A few days later, I noticed odd activity on my email. A password reset I didn't initiate. Then a missing envelope of emergency cash from the drawer. I confronted her. At first, she denied it. But then she cracked. "I didn't take the money," she said, "but I did use your Wi-Fi to access my old accounts. And maybe I tried to see if your Amazon was still logged in. I was going to tell you." My body went cold. "You were going to tell me?" I echoed, voice rising. "I panicked," she cried. "I've been trying to stay clean, Ratch. I swear. I haven't stolen anything since I left that rehab program last year. I've been living in shelters, eating from donation bins. I messed up. I was shaking. You promised. One night, Zoe. One chance. And you're already breaking it." She sank to her knees, hands clasped like she was praying. "Please. Please don't make me go back out there. I don't have anywhere else. I'll sleep in your car if I have to. I'll get a job, I'll pay you back. Just don't give up on me yet." I looked at her, broken, weeping, desperate. And I realized I was no longer dealing with a teenage thief. I was dealing with an addict. A girl shaped by a lifetime of abandonment, chaos, and survival. It didn't excuse her past, but it explained the mess. Still, I didn't trust her. Not fully. So I gave her one last chance. Under rules. Strict boundaries. No unsupervised access to the internet. No touching my things. She agreed. And for a while, it seemed like we might actually survive this round. She got a job at a local diner. Part-time. Low pay, but honest. She even started going to therapy, my therapist, in fact. She apologized. Not all at once, but in pieces. Quiet, awkward confessions over late dinners. "Remember your grandmother's necklace?" she asked one night. I nodded. "I sold it for drugs. I hated myself for it every day since." Another time, "I didn't ruin you because I hated you. I ruined you because I didn't know how to let you love me." I wanted to hate her again, but the hate had worn thin. I just felt tired. One evening, she came home from work shaking. Her manager had fired her. Apparently, an old theft charge showed up during a background check. She spiraled, threw her keys, screamed into a pillow, hyperventilated on the kitchen floor. "I can't start over again," she sobbed. "No one will ever let me forget." I sat next to her in silence. I didn't have words, just presence. The kind of presence I always gave, even when I didn't know if she deserved it. That night, something shifted in me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a crack in the wall I built. I remembered the girl who walked into my house 5 years ago, like a hurricane. And now, here she was, still flawed, still chaotic, but trying. Trying mattered. Trying was rare. But then came the letter. A week later, I received a court notice. Apparently, Zoe had used my identity again. Months ago. Before she showed up begging for help. The charges were pending.
Fraud.
Identity theft. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. I confronted her that night, holding the letter like it was fire.
She didn't deny it.
She just sat there and whispered, "I did it before I found you again. Before I tried to change." "I took one last thing," she said. "But I swear, I've been clean ever since." I stared at her. Tears stung my eyes. "You promised me," I whispered. "I know," she cried. "But please, Rachel,
Don't turn me in.
I'll pay it back. I'll fix it." I stood there, heart shattered in 1,000 pieces. One part of me wanted to call the police. The other part still wanted to believe people could change, even the ones we never wanted to help in the first place. I held the letter in my hands for hours that night. It trembled as much as I did. The court date was real. The amount stolen under my name was real. And no matter how many times I told myself it had happened before she re-entered my life, it didn't lessen the betrayal. It simply reminded me of one brutal truth. She'd broken me long before she ever knocked on my door again. And yet, she was still here. That night, she didn't sleep in the guest room. She stayed on the living room couch, silent, rigid, staring at the ceiling with red-rimmed eyes. I stayed in my bedroom, heart pounding, soul screaming. I didn't sleep either. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I found her sitting outside on the porch steps, curled into herself, like a scared child. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "You're going to turn me in, aren't you?" I sat beside her. And for the first time in years, I cried in front of her. "You have no idea," I whispered, "how much I wanted to believe in you. Not just now, but even back then. After you robbed me. After you walked away. I still wanted to believe there was something in you worth saving." She covered her face with both hands. "I never meant to destroy you," she said. "I was just trying to survive." "By becoming someone else?" I said bitterly, holding the letter up. "By stealing my name, my credit, my future?" She didn't reply, and the silence between us was heavier than ever before. After a long pause, I said something I never thought I'd say. "I'm not turning you in." Her head snapped toward me. "What?" "You heard me," I said, not looking at her. "I'm not pressing charges." "Why?" she asked, voice small, unbelieving. "Because I want to see what you do, without fear hanging over you." She burst into tears. No one's ever given me that chance before. I finally looked at her. "Don't make me regret it." In the weeks that followed, Zoe was different. Not perfect. Not magically healed. But present. She started working double shifts at a thrift shop that didn't care about her past record. She saved every penny she made and showed me every bank transaction like a badge of honor. She attended weekly therapy and even began volunteering at a shelter downtown. But the most surprising thing? She came clean. To everyone. One night over dinner, she asked me if she could speak to my accountant directly. "I want to set up a payment plan," she said. "I don't want you to ever feel like I got away with it." Her voice trembled, but there was clarity in her eyes. Accountability. It wasn't performative. It was real. Slowly, I began letting her in. We talked late into the night, sometimes about mundane things, music, old TV shows we used to binge, other times about memories we'd buried deep. She told me about the foster homes, the relapses, the years she lost chasing highs and forgetting faces. "I always felt like an extra in everyone else's life," she admitted. "But you saw me like I was the main character." I smiled faintly. "You just forgot you were." There were still bumps. Sometimes I caught her eyes drifting toward my wallet left on the counter. Sometimes she flinched when she saw her reflection in the mirror. But the difference now? She told me when she struggled. And I listened. One afternoon, I came home to find a letter on the kitchen counter. Handwritten. From her. "Rachel," it read. If I had to sum up the last few months, I'd say they've been the most painfully beautiful moments of my life. You didn't just give me shelter. You gave me back my humanity. You gave me a mirror and let me face everything I'd tried to outrun. I can't undo what I did to you. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. But more than that, I want to become the kind of person who's worth your belief. Even if we never get back the trust we once had, I want to live in a way that honors it. Thank you for not giving up on me. Love, Zoe. I clutched the letter to my chest and cried. Not because of the pain, but because I finally believed her. 6 months later, she moved out. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't sad. She had found a small studio apartment 5 blocks away, affordable and modest. On her last night at my house, we sat on the porch, same spot we had our confrontation, and watched the stars in silence. You saved me, she whispered. I shook my head gently.
No.
I just stopped running from you. She laughed softly. That was the only thing I ever needed anyone to do. Years passed. We grew separately, but never apart. Zoe finished a certificate program in addiction counseling and began working at a local recovery center. She became a mentor to young women who reminded her of her past self, angry, broken, misunderstood. She repaid every penny she owed me. Even the necklace she once sold was replaced with a custom-made piece she saved for over a year to buy. One day, while visiting her office, I saw it on her desk, a picture of us, from a beach trip we took the summer after she got clean. 2 women, weathered, flawed, beautifully scarred, but smiling. But that wasn't the end. One rainy night, I got a call. A girl, barely 18, had overdosed in a shelter. They didn't know who she was, only that she'd whispered Zoe's name. Zoe rushed there, found out the girl had been following her talks online. A nobody who felt like a somebody because of Zoe's words. She sat by the girl's side until she woke up. And when she did, Zoe told her something I'll never forget. I used to steal identities. Now I help people find theirs. And me? I found healing in the most unexpected place, through the very person who once tore me down. Not because she was perfect now, but because she never gave up trying. And I never gave up seeing the light beneath her wreckage. Have you ever loved someone who shattered you? Not because they meant to, but because they didn't know how not to? That was my story. But it's also my truth. Because through that pain, I found something deeper, an understanding that real healing doesn't come from revenge, it comes from release. It comes from choosing growth over bitterness. From choosing to let go, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. Zoe didn't become a saint overnight. And I didn't become whole just because she said sorry. But we both did something that changed everything. We stayed. We showed up. We didn't run from the wreckage. We sifted through it together.
Piece by piece.
And somewhere between the broken parts, we rebuilt something even stronger than before. I remember sitting with her one evening, years later, watching the sunset from the bench in front of the community center where she now worked full-time. There were lines around her eyes that weren't there before, and a strength in her voice that didn't come from pride, but from purpose. She leaned back, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Do you ever wonder why you didn't give up on me?" I didn't even have to think. Because you're the only family I had left. And I refused to let you be the reason I gave up on myself. She smiled gently. That was the first time someone chose me over their anger. And it hit me then. How many people are walking this earth with no one willing to choose them through the mess? How many of us are one act of grace away from rewriting our entire story? So here's what I'll ask you now. Who are you holding hostage in your heart? Who do you think about when you hear the word unforgivable? Is it a sister? A friend? A parent? A stranger who wronged you when you were most vulnerable? Or is it yourself? Because sometimes the person we need to forgive most is the reflection in the mirror. I carried shame for years. Shame that I let her back in. Shame that I needed her. Shame that I still loved her even after everything. But that shame didn't protect me. It just kept me from living. It kept me from softness, from trust, from connection. And when I let go of it, I became free. Zoe now speaks at women's recovery retreats across the country. And every time I see her standing before a crowd, raw, real, radiant, I think to myself, she is not my mistake. She is my miracle. And I wonder how many other miracles we throw away every day because they come wrapped in pain, because they require us to forgive, to bend, to trust again. But here's the thing. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's not naivety. It's bravery. To face what broke you and still believe in something better. To say, you hurt me, and yet I hope you heal. Not because they earned it, but because you deserve to move forward. So maybe today, you're carrying a betrayal that still bleeds. Or maybe you've hurt someone you love, and you don't believe you deserve a second chance. Let me tell you this. Redemption is real. Rebuilding is possible. But it doesn't start with them. It starts with you. With one step. With one open door. With one moment of choosing love over fear. I can't promise it will be easy. Zoe and I still have days where we struggle. We still flinch at old triggers, still tiptoe around wounds that haven't fully closed. But we walk through it.
Together.
That's what healing looks like. It's not perfect. It's personal. And it's worth it. So I leave you with this. What if the person you least expect is the one who needs you the most? What if offering grace to someone else is the key to unlocking your own? What if your biggest heartbreak becomes your greatest teacher? I never asked for Zoe to return. I never expected to forgive her. But I did. And in doing so, I didn't just help her rise. I found my own wings too.